This Thursday night brings us one of the most intense rivalries in all of football, the Philadelphia Eagles against the Dallas Cowboys, and whenever these two NFC East giants meet, it isn't just another regular season game. It feels like a playoff atmosphere, and this matchup brings with it endless opportunities in the betting and props market. I've gone through the numbers, recent form, and historical context, and I've lined up some of my favorite angles that stand out. This is the type of game where stars rise, and when you combine rivalry with high stakes, it creates the perfect environment for props to hit. Let's dive right into the best ways to attack Eagles versus Cowboys from a props perspective and build a parlay slip that makes sense for this game flow. Starting with the passing game, we have to look at Jalen Hurts. His passing yards line sits around 235.5 to 240.5 yards depending on the book, and this number has value on the over. Hurts has thrown for over 245 yards in 3 of his last 4 games against Dallas, and when you look at how the Cowboys' defense has been performing, their pass rush is elite but their secondary can be exposed when they fail to generate pressure. With Trevon Diggs out for the season last year and still recovering from injury, Dallas is thin at corner outside of Darren Bland. The Eagles' offensive line gives Hurts time in the pocket, and that spells trouble for a Cowboys defense that lives off sacks. I like Hurts to go over his passing yards prop here because the game script sets up for him to throw plenty. Dallas' offense can score, which forces Philly to respond through the air rather than just leaning on the run. On the other side, Dak Prescott has been one of the most polarizing quarterbacks in the NFL, but against Philadelphia he usually shows up. His passing yards line is hovering near 255.5 to 260.5 yards, and the Eagles' secondary has been their Achilles heel since last season. Even after drafting and trading to shore up the position, they still rank near the bottom in passing yards allowed per game. Philly's front seven is dominant against the run, which funnels opposing offenses into passing-heavy scripts, and Dak thrives in these situations. Over his last 3 meetings with Philadelphia, Prescott has topped 270 yards twice, including a 374-yard performance last year. Given the game environment and the pressure of a primetime rivalry, Dak should once again be slinging it. The over on his passing yards prop makes a ton of sense. When it comes to receiving props, CeeDee Lamb is the name you have to start with. His receptions line is sitting at 6.5 with heavy juice to the over, and it's easy to see why. Lamb has averaged nearly 10 targets per game against Philadelphia across the past 2 seasons, and the Eagles don't have a corner that can match his combination of route running and physicality. In last year's meetings, Lamb put up 11 catches for 150 yards in one and followed that with 10 catches for 120 yards in the other. This is a matchup he dominates, and if you're betting props, the over on Lamb's receptions and his receiving yards line around 85.5 both stand out as strong plays. For the Eagles, A.J. Brown is the alpha receiver, and his receiving yards prop is around 79.5. Brown is a physical nightmare for Dallas corners, especially when Hurts targets him on slants and deep posts. Last season, he cleared 85 yards in one meeting and was held in check in the other, but overall, the Cowboys have given up big games to top-tier wideouts. The Eagles love to scheme Brown open early and often to set the tone, and with Dallas focusing on stopping Devonta Smith deep, Brown should find plenty of room to rack up yardage. I like him to clear the 80-yard mark here. Rushing-wise, Tony Pollard is always tricky because his rushing yard lines often sit in the high 60s or low 70s, but against Philadelphia, that's not where I want to attack. The Eagles' run defense is one of the stingiest in the league, anchored by Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter up front. Pollard has historically struggled against this front, averaging just 3.2 yards per carry in his last 3 games against Philadelphia. Instead of taking his rushing over, I'd rather target his receiving prop, which usually floats around 22.5 yards. Pollard is heavily involved in the passing game on screens and dump-offs, especially when Dak is under duress. This gives us a better angle than trying to fight Philly's defensive front. For the Eagles' run game, DeAndre Swift has emerged as their go-to back, and his rushing line sits at 54.5 yards. Dallas has been inconsistent against the run, and Swift has the ability to bust one or two explosive runs that get him most of the way there. However, with the way this game projects as high-scoring and pass-heavy, I'd be cautious on Swift's rushing yards. Instead, I prefer looking at his combined rushing plus receiving yards, which often lands in the 70 to 75 range. Swift's versatility out of the backfield gives him more paths to cashing that number, especially with Dallas linebackers struggling to cover running backs in space. Touchdown scorer props are always popular in rivalry games, and there are a few that stand out in this matchup. A.J. Brown anytime touchdown is a strong play, as he's Hurts' favorite red zone target, and he's scored in 2 of the last 4 meetings against Dallas. On the Cowboys' side, CeeDee Lamb anytime touchdown is also appealing given his massive usage and the way Dallas moves him around to exploit mismatches. If you're looking for a value play, Jake Ferguson, the Cowboys' tight end, is worth a sprinkle. Philadelphia has historically been weak against tight ends, and Ferguson saw 6 red zone targets in the last 3 games combined. His anytime touchdown prop will likely be priced in the plus 250 to plus 300 range, giving you excellent value in a game where Dallas will be throwing often in the red zone. Now, let's tie it all together with a suggested parlay slip that makes sense for this game environment. Start with Jalen Hurts over 235.5 passing yards, Dak Prescott over 255.5 passing yards, and CeeDee Lamb over 6.5 receptions. That's the foundation. If you want to juice it up, add A.J. Brown over 79.5 receiving yards and Jake Ferguson anytime touchdown. That creates a high upside, game script correlated slip that capitalizes on the rivalry shootout narrative. These plays all fit together. High passing volume, star receivers feasting, and a secondary target like Ferguson cashing in when defenses overcommit to Lamb. When the Eagles and Cowboys meet, the stats can sometimes go out the window because the rivalry itself creates fireworks, but the numbers still point us in the right direction. Both quarterbacks are positioned to go over their passing yard lines. The top receivers in Lamb and Brown should dominate their matchups, and touchdown props on high-volume players are the sharpest way to approach this primetime battle. No matter how it shakes out, this is one of the most fun games to attack from a props perspective, and this breakdown gives us the edges we need to build a winning slip.